Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to chat with the Shiv, the CEO of Boundless for WuBlockchain. We are going to talk about some awesome stuff like the mainnet launch tokens and some cool technology. So let's get started. So Shiv, can you introduce yourself at first?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm Shiv. I'm the CEO of Boundless. I've been working with RISC Zero before I joined Boundless, leading engineering and product, and now I lead all of Boundless. My work history in Web3, I've worked at Ava Labs, the company behind the Avalanche L1, managing all of engineering there. I've worked at Coinbase, managing quite a few engineering orgs there as well. In Web2, I worked at Amazon, Microsoft. If you heard of Grab, which is a Southeast Asian rideshare company, I worked there. I worked at Lyft. Yeah, so as an engineer, my background is mostly in storage systems, database design, and as a executive, mostly in market design in different verticals and different industries.
Got it. So let's talk about the community. People are excited about the mainnet launch and the connection with base, like Warhol or EigenLayer. What do you think about all these things and in the network doing well? How like making proofs in under 12 seconds?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been fantastic. I think 2 years ago, ZK was only a dream, or it was essentially still a research topic. Even Ethereum and Vitalik thought that it's going to take anywhere between 5 to 7 years for this technology to be ready. So we've the entire industry has been surprising everybody by how quickly it's advanced, and of course, a lot of it was kicked off by RISC Zero when they invented the ZKVM. And then after that, lots of people showed up with very similar looking stacks and adopting RISC Zero's technology as well. And very recently, there are 4 or 5 teams that are proving a majority of Ethereum blocks in under 12 seconds. By the end of the year, you'll have I think a bunch of teams are doing it for all Ethereum blocks, and that's fantastic news. And then, of course, all the partnerships follow almost immediately. When you think about it, Base, EigenLayer, all of these teams need proving at that performance for it to be productionized. So we're extremely happy with the progress of ZK technology, and Boundless is ultimately the way in which ZK is actually given or shared with all of these platforms, because ZK by itself is just core technology. It's research, it's just a project. How do you actually deploy it in production on every chain, for every market, for every use case? Boundless is the mechanism for doing that. So we're extremely happy with the progress here.
Okay, thank you. Let's move into the tokens. Yeah, the ZKC is listed on Binance, Upbit, and many other exchanges. And yeah, congratulations.
Thank
Everyone's
you.
talking about how tokens and the rewards work. So, how do you make sure the rewards are fair and don't let just few people control the everything? Also, the airdrops and the high staking rewards. How do you keep the token value stable?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the key things for us from day one was that Boundless needs to be fully decentralized. A lot of projects basically tell you that decentralization is very important and we'll get there tomorrow or day after or in a few months or in a few years. For us, it was a core and critical value to be decentralized on day one. So on mainnet, which was 5 6 days ago, or 4 5 days ago, we were decentralized from day one. And that's very important for us. With respect to the token as well, the mechanism by which emission rewards are actually given out is through our own protocol. It's called Proof of Verifiable Work, which is actually the sort of like an evolution of Proof of Work. In Proof of Work, one key aspect of Proof of Work is every epoch, there's only one winner or one person who gets the emission rewards for that epoch. And that's mostly because you can't actually, distribute everything fairly based on compute power. But with ZK, it's actually possible to do that. Proof of verifiable work, which is a core thing that we built for our protocol specifically for the boundless market, allows you to track how many cycles every person contributes to the network. It's cryptographically secure, so there's no way to spoof it, which means if Colin, you do twice the amount of work that I do, that means you get twice the amount of rewards that I get. That's very important because let's say there is a large player. Let's say Tina brings in like 1,000 machines, and you and I can only bring in 10 machines each. Tina might end up with 100 times more reward than us, but it doesn't mean that we get zero rewards. In fact, it's possibly a good thing because that means big players also value the token so much. Thereby, whatever little we get is worth more than us getting like a giant share of something that is worth less. So from that perspective, the tokenomics is very much in favor of equitable distribution and for people who bring compute as well. So that's the most important thing. With respect to airdrops and so on, like I think we've had like a very strong notion of making sure we build a community that understands the possibilities of ZK, understands what is important about ZK, how it actually ties to the story of all the blockchain scaling and so on. We are not very strong believers in just sort of like giving out tokens and immediately seeing everything sort of crash, but rather building a huge community that gets to own the protocol over a period of time. One of my personal goals is to make sure that in like 3 to 5 years, the protocol is completely autonomous, and myself and Tina and the rest of Boundless is just competing with everybody else on the protocol, just like Bitcoin and so on. The key thing to remember here is the more decentralized a protocol is, the more it can live up to its potential. If, for example, there was always a concern that like, oh, I don't know if Shiv is controlling the protocol, or if Tina is controlling the protocol, or if Colin's controlling the protocol, people will trust it less. But if the protocol belongs to everybody and no one's necessarily in charge except like very transparent governance that is controlled by everybody and everybody's voting rights, it makes for like fully unleashing a protocol's power. And that's something we definitely want to do as quickly as possible. I want to get out of people's way and give the protocol to the people, because verifiable compute is such an important thing. It's such an important critical piece of Web3 that it cannot be owned or controlled by one person. The same way Bitcoin is not controlled or owned by one person, nor is Ethereum. The best protocols are the ones that belong to the people, because Web3 is about people and communities.
Got it.
And
Yeah.
sorry, I just want to ask a side story, because last month I actually went to Japan, and then because we've been running the mainnet beta, and then there's so many provers running, and then I met a top 10 prover from Japan, and then this prover, I just want to share like the story with him, because like he is a miner and at Ethereum, and then after Ethereum changed to POS, then he stopped doing any mining, not to like any mining literally. He just doing Ethereum mining until borderless. He start doing mining again. So I was so curious about why like it has been so long that you're not doing any mining. Why do you decide to participate in borderless mining? And then his answer is like, he feels like the paradigm of borderless is ZK mining, PoVW, is so attractive. It's totally a new paradigm for him. So he is willing to participate in our mining. So I think that the same reason applies to many of our provers now are running on our mainnet, like Big Fufu. They've been long like in doing POW, and then they decide to like engage with us to start doing the POVW mining. So I think our mining paradigm is so new and so fair, so people are willing to participate. So that's the thing I want to add in regarding to the mining.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so about the airdrops, we have to say some people on X, they may feel upset about the missed Kaito airdrop. But to be honest, most people are blame Kaito, not Boundless, right? Can you explain more about this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our focus firstly was, we really were going for a much smaller, raise on Kaito, and we were overwhelmed by the amount of support that everybody showed, like 71.5 million, nearly $72 million. Obviously, we can't take 72 million; the entire tokenomics will collapse if we did that. So what we really wanted to do was do our best to give everybody who has been with us for the longest time an opportunity to sort of use Kaito to get some of the tokens at a extremely subsidized and lucrative rate. That's the really the best that we could do. The issue with trying to satisfy everybody is that it's basically impossible. I can understand the feelings of people who feel like maybe they missed out or whatnot. I will say our journey or Boundless's journey is really long term. We are not. I mean, this is feedback I get constantly from partners, right? We work with today. We announced our partnership with Stellar, working with Nethermind. We're working with Conduit. We're working with EigenLayer. We're working with Ethereum. We're working with Base. These are projects that are not going anywhere. Our idea is to become a protocol for the ages. I want to make sure this protocol exists for hundreds of years, and it's very, very important for the community to sort of realize that and come along for that journey for the long term. In a lot of ways, a lot of people sort of think of ZK or verifiable compute as something that is a part of the blockchain industry. That's not actually true. Blockchain is the one layer, and compute is the layer on top of that. And the reason why my hand signaling shows compute to be much bigger is historically that's the bit that needs to scale. When you build an application, the database layer or the settlement layer needs to only scale to some point. What really needs to scale is the application layer. And we are building all of that. And that's supposed to be 4, 5, 10 times larger than the settlement layer. So there is a tremendous opportunity in front of us. I would love for everybody to sort of see that opportunity and participate, build, and do all of these exciting things. We aren't a one-off protocol. It's not like mainnet and done. We have. I'm hiring. I'm going to conferences. I'm doing all this stuff because our roadmap is so exciting and so full of things, of new things that we are building. We invented the ZKVM. We invented proof of verifiable work. We invented the world's best decentralized proving network. We're going to keep inventing things. So I always feel excited about working with people who innovate and invent and not just iteratively build small things. So we are going for really large leaps. So yeah, I would really, I can empathize to some extent with people who may feel like, I could have gotten more, or I could have done this, or airdrops and so on. We tried our best to be as equitable as possible. There is a limit to the mathematics that it allows, and of course, there are other operational issues here and glitches and so on. The industry is still new. Lots of things don't work. There's occasional bugs here and there. We're still a small team. We tried our best to do everything, but the journey is so long. My hope is everyone can come along and participate.
I just want to add in one more point regarding to the Kaito airdrops stuff. So even though the fact that we can't really make everyone happy, but our goal is still trying our best to make everyone happy. So for those who are left over, not getting Kaito airdrop or have issue with airdrops, we are trying our best to collect all these people, and then if they are continue willing to contribute within our ecosystem, we are actually opened up another opportunity for them. So we are running a better evangelist program for that. So if these people are willing to continue contributing within our ecosystem, I think this program is a good fit for them. And at the same time, those people who are having issue with the claiming the airdrop, so we are collecting all this list, and then hopefully we can help them to deal with all these issues as soon as possible.
Okay, let's switch to tech now. So the RISC Zero ZKVM makes it easy to for developers to create proofs. So can you share more examples like checking AI models or stopping wrong DeFi transfers? Yeah, how does the OpenZK proofing market make things cheaper and easier? Also, even maybe can create a more and bigger, huge market.
Yeah. So for with respect to sort of examples of where verifiable compute becomes extremely useful, is think of any sort of computation that you need to do on chain that is expensive. Anything to do with encryption, anything to do with hashing algorithms, all of these things. When you try to do it inside a smart contract, takes up a certain amount of gas. And let's say you have to do these computations all the time, and you have to do it for millions of customers. Now you're looking at tons and tons of like transaction fees that you need to pay to like run your application. Either you do that on Ethereum or some L1, or then you move it to an L2 architecture. You find another way around it. You then or make a trade-off and become centralized and do something funky, and then now you're introducing points of failure or trust assumptions in your application. The interesting thing with like ZK is you can move all of these transactions away off chain, run it on a server, and just submit proofs. This is so for Eigen, for example, has a computation that it needs to run, which costs about 1.4, 1.5 billion gas. That is roughly 20 to 25 blocks of computation. That is impossible. You cannot buy 25 blocks of computation. Like, firstly, the gas price will shoot up. It's impossible to do. But like, if you had to put some number around it, it'll be like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. You can do that computation inside a ZK VM and submit that transaction, and the entire thing would cost you like a few dollars, like $5 or something, $5 to $6. That's insane. Like, it goes from impossible, maybe cost millions of dollars, to like $5, $6. That's a very, very important sort of comparison to remember and keep in your head, right? Now, let's say, but that there is like this trade-off where now you need to do this computation. Do you do it in a centralized way? Do you do it in AWS? Do you do it in your data center? That's not great, because like for a protocol like Eigen, which needs to be completely decentralized, that won't work. What they need is an equally decentralized way to actually run that compute. That's Boundless, where there is no single point of failure. Nobody is controlling or trying to do like a distributed proving sort of setup where I decide who gets to do the proving. It's an open marketplace. It runs on smart contracts on Ethereum. So that satisfies that edge. But as the third factor is, like, if you actually build something in Web3 and you don't utilize the power of the token to subsidize the cost of proving, then you're sort of missing a trick, because that is the most important sort of force in Web3. So what really happens in Boundless is provers compete to do the proof or provide cycles, because they're also trying to mine the tokens. So if you're mining tokens and that's one of your aims, you will subsidize the cost of proving. So you're like, oh, I'll just do the compute because like this will give me some two streams of income. Somebody is trying to pay for the proof and I'll also get the token. So the cost of the proof itself keeps coming down. We already saw that in mainnet beta, where we had something like 2,700 provers providing thousands of machines all competing for the proofs. They valued the token so much that they ended up doing most of the proofs for free. The median price of proofs on Boundless mainnet beta was $0. The 90th percentile price was also $0. Very, very few proofs actually cost money. Gigantic proofs were the ones where like people were like, oh yeah, maybe I'll need a little bit, like, and they still discounted it by like 95%. We are going to see the same effect on mainnet, where there's a massive subsidy effect. Now, if I told you, your proving bill used to be $2,000 and now it's $100, that makes it more and more lucrative for you to adopt ZK, use ZK in more circumstances. So back to answering your question, this is how the protocol actually subsidizes the cost of proofs and keeps growing the market, because as things become, there's actually an economic effect where, like, if there is a high utility asset and the price keeps going down, usage actually goes up. A classic example of this is coal. When coal started out, it used to be quite expensive and wasn't utilized everywhere. As the price of coal went down, people started using it everywhere, and that's when people invented the steam engine and they started doing more things, and the industrialization of the entire economy started happening. Similarly, we see the same effect. It's called Jevons paradox. It's the same effect with computation, regular computation as well. When computers became cheaper and cheaper, we didn't use it less. We started using it everywhere. Now, when verifiable compute becomes cheaper and cheaper, when ZK becomes cheaper and cheaper, we're going to see it being used in every single use case in Web3 and Web2.
Okay, so let's talk about something about the AI. So about mixing the ZK with AI. So people love the idea of checking AI result with ZK. So how will Boundless make every blockchain super big with like AI everything? Yeah. Also about are you trying to talk about like Google Cloud or other AI company for partnership? And how does the open AI, open ZK proving market help with the AI computing?
Yeah, so there are two areas of overlap. One, actually three. The first one is both AI and ZK are math-heavy industries. A lot of overlap in skill sets. That's one thing. The second thing is like both AI and ZK loves GPUs, specialized, processing units for math-heavy, math-intensive calculations. So the hardware is actually the same as well, which is a very interesting point. And the third most important thing is like when people talk about using AI, they usually mean agents, agentic web. What people really want to see is the rise of like agents that you just talk to and say, hey, I have this intent, I have $100, this is what I want to do, take care of it. And the agent runs on your behalf and does a bunch of stuff. Now the real question is, did the agent do the right set of things, or did it act maliciously and lose all your money? How do you actually prove what happened? It's important to run those agents inside a verifiable context. And the verifiable context is the ZKVM for a lot of cases. The interesting thing is performance of ZK is getting so good so quickly that sometime, now we're talking in September, sometime early next year, we're going to start seeing the rise of ASICs. We're going to start seeing the rise of specialized hardware to make ZK go even faster. RISC Zero is going to actually come out with a proof system that is 10x faster this year. So add an ASIC to that, and suddenly you're in the realm where you can actually run simple AI models inside a ZK VM effectively. We're going to see the same kind of journey that we had with blockchains, right? So we launch and everybody's like ZK, and then but it should take 5 years, and within 2 years everybody's adopting ZK, and Ethereum literally has to change its roadmap to adopt ZK. The same thing is going to happen here as well. People will initially start with, it probably can't work, it's probably too slow. Within 6 months, people will realize it works for most use cases. Like you don't need like Gemini to run like simple agents. You can use a much simpler open source model that is like much smaller and doesn't need so much compute resources. And that's going to start happening, in my opinion. Sometime next year, you're going to start seeing verifiable agents doing lots and lots of interesting things. Now, but the key thing to remember is cost, right? There are lots of like different data points. Some are new, some are old, and like OpenAI and everybody keeps tracking like how much does a query cost, how much do questions cost. There's like this like funny thing around when you talk to ChatGPT, and if you say thank you, then it has to say thank you back to you, and that itself costs the company millions of dollars every year, because you just like responding to thank you itself like costs so much. All of these costs are because of GPUs and running so many computers, right? How do you keep the cost down for this agentic web? Boundless is ultimately the answer to do it. You can either pay all this raw cost yourself, and basically your business burns through cash really quickly, or find a way to work with the community to like run this like massive experiment together and see what works, what doesn't work, and make sure the community can benefit from like participating. That's Boundless for you. So ultimately, when agents and AI start showing up, Boundless will be prepared. The last thing I'll say is Boundless is ZK tech agnostic. And what that means is as new ZK tech comes in, we will be adopting it inside Boundless. We are not married to RISC Zero. RISC Zero is a place to start. Even 2 years ago, we knew that like we invented something new, but lots of people are going to come in, and we can't compete against like 400 teams doing things at the same time. We wanted to build a mechanism where everybody can plug in their ZK innovation and profit from it. So when new things for ZK and AI show up, just like in AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, how like new tech shows up, new tech is going to show up inside Boundless as well. So that's like a super exciting world we want to live in.
Oh, let's still on tech, and the security is really important for ZK. And how do you keep the system safe for the future, like against quantum computers? Also, does your reward system stop any one group for taking over? Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a inherent property in some parts of ZK which makes it quantum resistant. Stock proofs in particular are quantum resistant. This is a advantage of ZK that is being used to make Ethereum quantum resistant in the future as well. And it is a focused area of study right now that actually RISC Zero works with Ethereum and a couple of other players in investigating. So we will see both the post-quantum world of Ethereum look a lot of it is going to be dependent on ZK. And ZK itself, like constantly making sure every aspect of it is quantum resistant. And this is not a decade-long journey. Very, very well established players are going to have like decent quantum computers in anywhere between 5 to 7 years, which means you need to be quantum resistant in 3 to 4 years. Especially when you're talking about public ledgers. One way I like describing this is AI is the sword, and blockchains and ZK are the shield. So everybody is like fascinated by the sword and seeing how shiny it is and how well it cuts and stuff. But everyone has to develop the shield as well, and that is basically ZK powered blockchains and blockchains. So an ability for you to store information that can never be changed by anybody, no matter how much resources they have, and an ability to actually compute on that data and put in new data back, and also being in a way that can't be corrupted. That's basically ZK for you. So that's like super duper important. And to your second question around like how do you actually stop people from creating monopolies, right? So I think that is the true power of proof of verifiable work, where it actually like makes sure that everybody who participates gets like an equitable reward. Now, does that mean there won't be people who can offer more services and at some point like gain like a large market share? No, especially as long as they serve customers. That's the interesting thing here. So let's say, at some point of time, I'm running like a massive data center and I lower prices to like a crazy amount and take over like 70% of the market share. That's fine. What do I do now? Should I increase my prices? As soon as I increase my prices beyond a certain point, everyone can come back. Or there's always AWS and all Google Cloud and everything else on offer, which offers computing at some price point. So I can never raise it beyond the raw cost of what like all of these competitors are charging outside. So there is actually zero risk of like anybody coming in and taking over the market, which makes us very, very unique. I mean, it would be a really bad strategy as a prover to overly subsidize to try to take over the market, because the only people who benefit from that are people who demand proofs. They'll just get free or subsidized proving for a really long time. And as soon as you raise the price, they can't go above it, which makes it very, very unique. And in a way, think of rideshare, right? Like you can always like raise prices, but you can't go beyond like what used to be the price with like cabs, because cabs still exist. Nor can you go higher than the cost of ownership of a car, because then people will just buy cars. So there is always downward pressure on this, and that's the beauty of Boundless.
My final question is about the Asia. Yeah, at first, the China has a lot of developers and miners, and so how will you cooperate with like the developers and the miners in China? Yeah. The second question is, the Boundless is successfully listed on Upbit. Yeah, and the Korea has the maybe the most exciting traders in the world. Yeah, they have a lot of retired traders and the communities. Yeah, so how will you cooperate with this community and the traders in the future?
Yeah, so those are like two great questions. So especially with the builders and the miners, right? So I think Tina also alluded to this as well. A lot of them got disillusioned when the mining era sort of like stopped, with especially with Ethereum. All they're stuck with is Bitcoin, which has like a very very elegant, but sort of like a final conclusion that like if you have the most amount of computing power, you win. So you can't be a college prover anymore. It doesn't make any sense. You can have it, but it won't. The chances of getting the block rewards are minimal at best. Proof of verifiable work in ZK mining brings back that trend, makes it fun again, makes it interesting again. It's a different take on the same problem. There's actually a Satoshi email that he sent like a long time ago. There's a screenshot of it going around on crypto Twitter where he says like, "Oh, I wish I knew more about ZK. It seems perfect for proof of work." And he's right. It's just that proof of ZK needed like another 5-8 years for it to develop to really sort of upgrade proof of work to proof of verifiable work. So that's one thing. I think it's very exciting. A lot of my best friends who are amazing developers are all participating as provers. Why? It's just good fun. Trying to outcompete someone with like a lot more resources by like having the best strategies, working together. It's like a lot of fun. It's really good setup, which is clean and fair and run on Ethereum, and everything is transparent for who's doing well, who's not doing well. So people are very, very excited about that. And I hope everybody who's listening also gets excited, tries to participate, build interesting things. I think one story that we didn't share was like this: during mainnet beta, we had like this one student who just graduated from high school and is getting ready to go to college. He dominated the leaderboard for the longest time at number one because he just figured out more than everybody else in how to run his like setup. With like a small setup, he was beating people with like 5x the machines. So that's something that is going to get people really, really excited and willing to participate. And the most important thing is like everybody gets to win, which is like a really fair way to like sort of run any sort of leaderboard. With respect to sort of Korea and everybody's interest, I would say like Korea is unique in how much crypto has penetrated the population and people's interest. I also think what's happened over a period of time is they've developed a taste for what is new, what is exciting, what works, what doesn't work, what is important, what is not important, what is long term, what is short term. My hope is folks see us as a long term project. Folks see us as a project worth incorporating in their DeFi applications. People all over the world, not just Korea, see us as a project that they want to see in their own government's sort of initiatives for protecting privacy, for stable coins, for their exchanges, for their L1s. I heard Upbit is launching its own L1. Like that'll be great as well to like work with them. Our goal is to make sure we build. I don't really care about like short-term stuff going here and there. I think in the earlier part of the conversation where I was introducing myself, I was talking about my background at Microsoft, at Amazon, at Lyft, at Grab. All of these companies really, especially Amazon and Microsoft. I was there when Amazon launched AWS. I used to work at Microsoft. I was part of. I was on call number 3 for Microsoft Azure. I was there when all of these initiatives were set up. The idea even then was, how do we build $1 trillion company? How do we grow to become the provider of like compute and data and analytics service for everybody on planet Earth? That's the Seattle spirit, really. We build all these cloud computing companies here for a reason, because everybody here thinks deep and thinks wide. That's really where we want to go. And for any community like looking at us, I hope that's what they take away, that these guys are focused on building deep tech and making sure it's used in a variety of applications. Everything else is just just like meta talk and like crypto Twitter and all that stuff. We want to stay honest and true to our DNA of being builders and innovators and inventors.
Can I add one more thing regarding to the mining community in China and also some of our plans? So for our mining, so we're very sure that we pretty much onboard all the like big miners in China already. We have Big Fufu, we have Nano Labs, we have 6 blocks powered by Shaichu, and also ZK Pool and Cans and some of others. So we pretty much like all the big miners in China has already running on now it's on mainnet already. So and I think our goal is that to continuously to onboard more miners from China or even from other like Asia countries or other countries to join our mainnet. So and then we also like we are very confident because it's not hard for more than, because our mining revenue is still very, very high for them, and so it's so attractive to them. So it's not hard for us to onboard more miners to our mainnet. And regarding to Korean, so after TG, it's super rare that a project still maintains a very high mind share and also sentiments on the social media. So we will continue working on building up our brand awareness and then keeping our brand sentiments very positive. And then yes, that's our plan. So and then we are also expanding to like Japan and some other like Asia's country, Turkey, Russia. That's all our plans to keep more like our project continue growing and becoming bigger. Maybe our goal is to become more than a trillion, right? A trillion company like Shiv mentioned. Yeah.
I mean, the trillion number is basically, something that is like a North Star. Like if verifiable compute reaches where we want it to reach, and it won't happen in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. It'll probably take 10 or so years. When that happens, the industry will be worth trillions. We want to be around. I definitely don't want to be like the only player. We hope that we build an ecosystem of companies around us that are doing lots of interesting things, and where we help power a lot of it. And that is the entire way to uplift the entire ecosystem. If it's like a lot of people have this very narrow vision of everything will be built on my platform, I am the beginning and the end of every product. That is mostly like a fool's hope. That is basically impossible and also like anti-competitive. What we really want to see is lots of people adopting crypto, lots of people adopting ZK, lots of people adopting these new technologies to build out the new internet. Boundless is built for internet scale. That's really our goal. We want to be internet scale, and we actually think the internet still has space to grow. Like the old goal or the original goal of crypto was to bring all of these services to people who don't have access to them. So we hope that the pie grows. We help it grow. We help government scale up. Like we were talking about quantum resistance. Like the largest governments in the world need help from private industry to be quantum resistant. We can provide that technology in an open source, completely fair way for people to use and access, and that people should be taking advantage of it. So we see our market as anybody who computes in the open should compute on Boundless, and that, in my opinion, at some point in 5-6 years, will be worth $1 trillion.
Cool. Okay. Thank you for your time. And yeah, Tina really doing a great job in the Asia market. Yeah. Yeah. Hope you guys make the ZK market bigger in the future. Yeah. Thanks for your time and thanks for.
Yes, we are doing our best.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Colin.